Self-improvement nearly made me make some really stupid choices. And if it wasn't for, if it weren't for my dad, my life would probably look very, very different because I, I always knew I wanted to, like, do more than just work a 9 to 5, right? I knew that already because the things I was doing and just through the ambitions that I had for myself. But this didn't come at an age where I was working a job full time. That I've always been pretty interested in just self-improvement as a whole before self-improvement was a trend. But I thought everyone would call it self-improvement. And yeah, like I had an apprenticeship and I didn't really feel fulfilled, but because I was only, like 16, 17 around this time, I didn't, I was fresh out of school. I didn't really understand like what life really was and what true purpose meant because I was young. And then around 18 years old, I took action. I was like, you know what, like, I wasn't depressed. Like, I was, waking up, I was going gym, going to work, all this stuff. Like, I wasn't depressed, moping around at home. I had an apprenticeship and it was going all right. But it didn't fulfill me because it wasn't what I was interested in, if that makes sense. But I didn't want to go to college because I didn't enjoy school. So there's no point in me going to college because that there was nothing to it. At least with my job, my apprenticeship, I could make money. So then I ended up getting sort of. I just felt lost. It was like a repeating cycle of just waking up, going to the gym, going to work, coming home, and that was it. But I was still feeding into my interests because the videos I was watching on YouTube was all about sort of, like motivation and stuff like that. So without realizing it, I was rewiring my brain into taking action. So I got to 18 years old and I was like, I want to start like a side hustle. Didn't know what to do. And I ended up doing theme pages. I've said this 100 times. Started theme pages, then you guys know the story. I've already made videos on this before, so I'm not going to get into it again. But, long story short, I ended up, it didn't feel like it, but I ended up becoming more lost through getting into self-improvement. Because I was doing things that I didn't want to do, I wasn't enjoying, but to me, it felt like it was filling that void of just, rather than sitting at home doing nothing, I was coming home and working. And it probably was better. Like, it was, because through doing that, it led me to this point. So it probably was better than just like sitting at home and essentially, how I was putting it, giving up. Just quitting and being like, oh no, this is too hard. It's not working out. I'm going to quit. It probably was better than just doing that. And in the moment, it didn't feel like I was, I don't want to say going down the wrong path because that just makes it sound like I was, doing crazy stuff. But I wasn't doing what I was truly passionate about. And then, I was going to quit my job. I was going to quit my 9 to 5 and by this point I was doing do appointment setting full time, which would have been, terrible because the job I was working, it was funding everything in my life. Like, I was making money through appointment setting, but it wasn't consistent and it wasn't as much as what I was making through my full-time job. But to me, it was like, anything's better than working a 9 to 5 because I can put more time into it. And then after, well, to be honest now, like, at the start of it, the first year, I would say it was, it was great. Like, it was right. I was actually enjoying it. It was a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but I was enjoying it. I was like, in my head that this was the grind, like, no free time at all, just constant work. No matter what, it's just work, 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 work. But looking back is not that. Like, that's not the grind, because I wasn't really doing anything with my life, to be honest. I would go on, like, the family holidays and stuff like that. But even when I was on holiday, I was still, like, sending out messages and stuff like that, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And yeah, like, I think where I went wrong was I wasn't clear on what I wanted out of my life. It was very vague. It was just like, I want to get rich. I want to have a business. I want to be a millionaire. Very, like, surface level. Massive ambitions. You say it to anyone, they'll be like, oh wow, like, that's super ambitious, that's great. But trust me, from experience, you need to be clear on what you want. Like, out of whatever it is you're going to do. It's like, why do you want to have all this money? Why do you want to have your own business? But at the time, like, I wasn't educated enough on self-improvement. I just seen it as like, okay, yeah, take action. And that's how everyone puts it. But it's like, like, action, like, you can take action, but if you don't have a plan in place in the direction where you're heading, is useless. Like, action without direction and purpose is useless, because you're just going to get into this loop of just, the hustle culture. It's going to be like work, 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 work. But it's like, why are you working? What's the intention behind your work? Like, is it just because you want to make money? But like, okay, like, you're making money, but how are you making that money? What are you going to be doing with that money? I didn't have any of that. It was just, oh shit, okay, like, I got to take action now. But theme pages, like, I didn't give a fuck about theme pages. To me, it was just, oh yeah, like, it's going to make me money. Appointment setting, I didn't even give a fuck about sales, let alone appointment setting, which is, like, a niche part of sales. So that is, like, don't make the same mistake as what I did. Because I ended up just getting so caught up in hustle culture. And even worse than that, I didn't care about what I was doing. Like, it wasn't my purpose. Even when I was doing it, I used to have these thoughts of like, I don't want to do this. Like, I wouldn't be proud telling people that I'm an appointment setter. But I just sort of ignored it, because I was like, okay, like, this is part of the journey. Like, this is the small part of the sacrifice that I've got to make. And that's generally how I thought about it. So, yeah, like, the advice to you lot is, if you're going to take action, make sure you have a direction and a purpose to why you're doing what you're doing. Otherwise, it's useless. It may be better than just sitting at home and doing nothing, but how much better? Because you're probably sacrificing a lot more than what it's worth. Because I definitely know that was the situation that I was in. Like, imagine I'm working 42.5-hour weeks through my normal job, and then coming home and working even more and not having free time, and just sort of shut myself away in my bedroom, working for some, like, 18-year-old kid that's essentially controlling my life. It was dark, and I don't want you lot to make the same mistake that I did.